Good afternoon, everyone. And thanks for this interesting opportunity to moderate the forum today afternoon. And this aligns with an very interesting situation what we are going through, especially in the pandemic times about upskilling, reskilling, and also how to deal with the workforce in our organizations and how to ensure that we give them the best opportunity to learn, to excel, and contribute to the ecosystems. As part of this, forum where I am moderating today, I have with me a very interesting set of people who come from different fields, I would say, and bring in different dimensions of thinking process for us to further understand their workloads, their work cultures, and the systems they're dealing with, and how are they handling, especially the workforce in terms of enhancing their skill set and giving them an aspiration at the workplace and overall contributing to the workforce ecosystem. So we have with us three set of people. One who comes from a startup industry, very excelling, interesting startup in the education domain. The second is a gentleman wherein it's already a very large and establishment in the financial sector. And the third speaker is from an interesting software company which is doing some very interesting interventions in the area of not just providing compelling products, but also in building learning as an ecosystem, as a continuous ecosystem with our system. So I would take this opportunity to introduce the current speakers for the day. So we have with us the privilege of having Rajendran. He's the head of Zoho Learning. And he's been part of the Zoho team right from the beginning, from the inception. He brings in a lot of rich knowledge of the ecosystem, of not just only in building compelling products. And Zoho is a very established brand name in the field of education, by driving something called Zoho Learning, and wherein they have a very interesting format of nurturing and capturing the talent at an engage and growing them through the ecosystem and making sure they're part of the longer journey. So Rajendran will share with us very interesting thoughts, how Zoho Learning has evolved and how is it. It is almost 16 years they've been doing this. So that's a very interesting field. We would love to understand from him as we discuss further. We also have with us Mr. Amitabh Singh. He brings in a lot of rich experience from the industry of financial domain, ICICI Bank. He leads the HR function there at ICICI, and he brings in very interesting interventions around dealing with the workforce, growing the workforce, and seeing a value in the ecosystem with the changing needs. How is he trying to look at various interesting models to enhance skilling, upskilling, and reskilling of individuals within his organization? As you know, it doesn't require any introduction. It's one of the leading financial, banking ecosystem in India. So we would learn from him from a large corporate house. How is he looking at transforming the talent? How is he going to strengthen the network, especially in pandemic times? We also have with us one more very young and interesting personality, Saurabh. Saurabh Saxena. He's the Chief Operating Officer of the Scalar Academy. Scalar, most of you would be knowing they are contributing a lot in the deep technology scaling space. The founders are Anshuman and Abhimanyu. Actually founded this, come from a very vast experience of building products for Facebook and all. And Scalar in the last round has raised almost close to 150 CR from Sequoia Capital and is doing fabulous stuff in terms of building the curriculums and modules which can enhance deep coding skills across the young youth who are working as well as in colleges, with a special focus on diversity. So we will touch upon some interesting interventions of curriculum adoption, the need of the hour, and the gaps between the industry, academia, and how are they filling in. So these are the three interesting panelists we have today. As I want each one of you to share your thoughts, around areas where you have seen success and also where you're seeing challenges, and make this intervention and this entire conversation around this meaningful to our set of audience. And a great welcome to all the audience who have joined in from corporates, educational institutions, learning partners, learning ecosystems. And we will make it interactive. We will also love to have some poll discussion polls to understand what is happening from an audience perspective. And feel free to post your comments on your chat boxes, and if you have any questions, feel free to post those. At the end of it, we will certainly love to take few and discuss those. With this, I want to kickstart this panel. Very interesting how, on the theme of the topic itself is, how do the current day companies look at the ecosystem of upskilling, reskilling, and act as more as college in providing growth and learning path, and how do these act as a kind of a leadership institutions in building the workforce development skills and the modern age skills what are required from an industry 4.0. So, to start with, I would love to, strike the conversation with Mr. Rajendran from Zoho. Rajendran, as I was discussing you previously also, Zoho has adopted a very, very interesting model called Zoho Learning. It could be, in fact, a great learning opportunity for a lot of our audience today to understand your model, because there are a lot of HR heads, organization heads, institutions. So, the Zoho Learning model, what you have introduced, wherein you intake certain number of people every year. I heard you have some 12,000, 13,000 people who apply, and then you select shortlist some 150, 200 people, and then you take them through a journey of 2 years. And the interesting thing here to note is, where in a country like India, where we have 400 million people to be skilled, and we are one of the youngest nations in terms of the demographic advantage of number of youth, who are there in this country, which will be an advantage provided we skill them in the right manner. So we always have this debate that in India, students and the youth actually looks at education first and skills later. Which is actually the main problem if you look into. In some of the countries like Germany, Australia, some advanced countries in skilling ecosystems, they skill first the talent, and then they ensure that the basis, the skilling and passion and interest, what education suits you. So, I think Zoho is doing some great stuff around Zoho Learning in terms of identifying people and skilling them first, rather than, pushing them towards degrees and qualifications, but skilling, ensuring that that skill lands them within a decent job. So in a country where we are facing a lot of these industry academia divides, I think Zoho certainly has this model. Very interesting. I want to hear from you. How did you start this model? What is the success rate in the last 16 years you've been running this model? And how is this talent, what you're training, is further fueling your growth of Zoho as an ecosystem? If you can share some thoughts, that would be something interesting for an audience perspective.
Right. So I'm not sure about the time and the cycle period. So catch me and warn me if I'm taking too long. I'll try to keep it very short. This was born out of a necessity. We were not a very famous brand 16 years ago, and some of the top-notch colleges didn't even bother inviting us for placement, and the good talent never reached us. And whoever reached us came with very little understanding of the real depth of the problem. Were probably just pedantic, academic, memorize and vomit kind of students, and they simply couldn't really cut it when it came to implementing, getting hands-on, and being productive at work. So we thought, can we try something ourselves? That's how it started. And we didn't want to affiliate ourselves to any university, because that would mean inheriting some very old syllabus and following some straight-jacketed methodologies. So we said, we will not offer any degree. We will create an immersive system. We hit upon 3 words. We said it has to be relevant. We will teach only what is relevant. We will leave away everything else and let the student pick those things up along the way. We said it has to be contextual. So whenever we teach something, we say, how is it going to be used as a designer, as a marketer, as a salesperson, as a technical support person, as a developer, as a software architect? Where are you going to use it? And we ensured it was immersive. So you couldn't set up a Zoho School of Learning somewhere in Timbuktu and say that will feed into Zoho. It has to be within Zoho. So both our offices, one in Tenkasi and another in Chennai, these two have one floor where Zoho Schools is sitting. So at the lunch table, in the cricket playground, I'm talking pre-COVID, in the cricket playground, all these things fed into almost like an osmotic learning. You could learn by observing, learn by rubbing shoulders. So that'll be the CEO making a post in the intranet about what the company's outlook is. So this student who is having as much login powers as a typical employee can read that article. So for our English lessons, for example, we took up Sridhar's intranet posts. Our CEO's name is Sridhar Vembu. We took those posts and read it. So he learned economics, he learned English, he learned long form writing, he learned about Zoho. So that's what I meant by immersive, contextual, relevant. We chose two subjects. We told them we will teach you software engineering and mathematics. Along the way, if English is needed, we will teach English to you. Because we wanted to break that stranglehold English had on higher technical education. There were a lot of students out there, both in north of India and in South India, who were pretty smart, but it was hidden simply because they couldn't string some good sentences in English. And for no fault of theirs. They simply didn't have the exposure. Their English teachers didn't have the right exposure. And we were penalizing them at the gate for that. And we also said 3 zeros. We said we will do zero attendance. We will not force a student to attend classes and call out names. The student will attend if he or she really finds something meaningful in the classroom. If the teacher is going to vomit something that he or she saw from the internet the previous night, the student can bypass the teacher and learn it by themselves. So we said it will be by choice. It will be by will, opt-in attendance. We said zero fees because we wanted to ensure anybody could get onto this. Many students around the country today, simply because of the exorbitant costs involved, are not choosing some of the good academic pursuits available today. So we wanted to break that. And we said zero exams because we knew, having gone through such a system ourselves, we knew if you have an exam, it will automatically mean tool around, wasting time till it is exam time. 2 days before the exam, cram, vomit during the exam, and then forget it forever. That has been the cycle year after year in all these generations. So we thought if we abolish exams, if we abolish attendance, if we say we will pay you 10,000 rupees stipend instead of charging you 1 lakh rupees fees, probably something interesting might come out. It was a big leap of faith. 16 years though have gone by. As many as 1,200 students have passed through the portals, and almost every one of them has been absorbed into the company. So our company is 10,000 strong today, which means 1 out of 10 of our employees haven't seen the inside of a college. So that's something really assuring, really motivating. And we have ensured that these students don't carry around this logo saying, I am from Zoho schools. We try to dissolve them into the ocean as soon as possible. And we ensure there is no glass ceiling. Oh, you are from Zoho schools, you cannot go past this level in the hierarchy. We break it down. We have made it very clear. We even include it as part of our mission statement almost. We say anti-credentialism. When you come for us for an interview with us and you put up all the documents and resume and so on, we do that. Ab bolo, tell me about yourself. Show us what you can do. That's what we try to do. And it's been working out quite well. Across the length and breadth of the hierarchy, we have Zoho school students, including my own son. He graduated out of Zoho schools 2 years ago. And it's been a great, there is this very little but subtle but important factor here. The average age of the company is gone down because we take students at 18, 17 years. So just barely legal age for employment. These guys are already ready to do. And by the time their classmates finish 4 years of college, come to the crossroads, wonder what to do, whether higher education, abroad, and so on, these kids have 2 years experience working in Zoho. And that's been a remarkable advantage these students have had. So I hope I answered your question.
No, I think that's remarkable. In fact, you set an example for many organizations today, including startups, which are experimenting new formats, wherein the skill is the utmost necessary. The talent is utmost necessary. may not be the traditional certificates and your percentages in class, because that's going into a different direction, wherein there is no what you call expectations from the students in terms of understanding the ecosystem. For example, I see many of very bright students do their engineering and straight away get into an MBA institutions. Even from third year, second year, they're preparing for MBA and they land there.
Right.
So, and then they discover whether finance is my interest or marketing is my interest, because they are in that, urge to get into a best B school, and then discover later what their interest is. So, if you look into the Western schooling ecosystem or the Western colleges, I'm talking about the Ivy League or even the other colleges in Europe and US, people work there for some years, understand their interest, and then choose to get into an MBA school, and they end up doing. So, that's something, experience and exposure along with the opportunity like an organization like yours is giving, because in India still there are a lot of organizations which traditionally follow the recruitment process of hiring from top schools, going there day zero, day one, your percentages, and finally you end up having talent. Unfortunately, there's a lot of gap between what we been taught and what is needed in the industry, because the skills requirement is changing every day. That makes me actually translate the next question to Mr. Amitabh, who actually leads a very large HR function of an Indian bank, which is also now global. It has many, offerings across the financial market space in India and abroad. So, he's leading that HR function, and I want to understand from him, from this model, of what Rajendran just picked up, where skills are given utmost importance. Are you seeing a change in the hiring patterns in the industry, in the BFSI sector or in the other sectors, because you closely have and watch on various sectors heading the HR function there? Are you seeing that now the HR functions are preparing to onboard talent and skills and give more importance to that rather than colleges? Or you also thinking of doing some innovative methodology of onboarding talent, skilling them and pushing them into right roles? Is that something on your cards?
Sure, thanks. And it was exciting to hear Rajendran talking about the Zoho experience. So your question is right, and I won't say that we have one approach, because, and it's simply because of the size and the kind and the number of people we need to take. So I'll break my response with what ICICI is doing into two levels. So one, we have very strong industry academia partnership. So problem which Rajendran spoke about, what Zoho faced, we have a similar situation that, we wanted to hire hundreds and thousands of people, and you cannot only rely on the engineering colleges or the campuses, because, you end up hiring them and then you spend an equal amount of time, effort, money on training them and skilling. So we started some very strong partnership with, 2-3 big firms. So we run India's largest MBA college with Manipal. We call it ICICI Manipal Academy, wherein we take fresh graduates. They go through 1 year of skilling. So wherein you spend only 6 months in the classroom, you spend 6 months at the work, basically learning the ropes of what you're supposed to do. And after 1 year, you graduate. It's based out of Bangalore. Every year, there are 2,500 people who are graduating. So that's why I call it India's largest MBA college. I don't know of any other MBA college which churns out so many people. And we've been running it for now 12 years. So, and Rajendra, just the number you spoke about, a large number. Yes. So they have, I think, graduated more than 20,000 people so far. And out of 1 lakh people we have in the bank, close to 10% of our workforce constitutes of probationary officers who have graduated from. So what we did was that we did industry level tie-ups or academia tie-up at various levels. So we have tie-up with Manipal, what I just referred to. We have tie-up with NIIT for a different kind of a program. We have tie-up with ITM school. So that's exactly has been our approach, because, you cannot take fresh graduate and keep on investing your own time and efforts. You get very strong academic partner who will do it for you. Having said so, we also believe in having diversity in terms of the skill and the kind of people you onboard, because there's a value in each segment. So it's not that we completely stop going to the IIMs and the top tiers or IITs. So for example, right now, because that model also gives you flexibility. So currently there is a lot of focus on onboarding technology talent, and we are finding it's very good to go to IITs and pick up the 100 and 200 folks from IITs to come and work in the bank, not into banking domain, but work in the digital domain. And they bring a very different kind of an experience and a very different kind of a product orientation. I don't know, maybe they'll stay for 3-4 years because all these guys are hugely in demand. They'll find some other way, but in 3-4 years, the kind of value which they add is of a different nature. So we have a very diversified approach to talent acquisition. We spend a whole lot of time on running internal academies, because that's one of the questions, Venkatesh, we're talking about upskilling. So we invest a lot of time on ensuring that everyone is has the relevant skill for the job, because ultimately, Rajendran, what you said matters. Maybe at the time of entry, your certificate matters. Once you are in, it's irrelevant piece of document, right? It doesn't matter. If you don't perform, your boss will come back and say, oh, this guy, irrespective of the degree, doesn't work for me. And the guy who works, sometimes we get surprising, oh, we never knew where is this person from. So the performance matters, and it's good to hear that that's the kind of journey, and that's the kind of journey we've been on for some time now. And I think that's the way to go. Unfortunately, Indian education system, while it's very, very strong, because that's where all of us came from, and there's a huge amount of value in the way our education system runs, this transition into focus on vocational skills and getting people.
And what a name, Harappa.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
true. So to get the entire education system to change to that mindset, I think will take some time, effort, because as a country we deal with multiple kind of problem, right? We still don't have 100% literacy, so you need some kind of a formal education system, and on the other hand, you have a rapidly growing industry need. So it's a big balance which a government and maybe that's where NSDC comes in, needs to play that role in balancing. But it's a complex problem we have, and I think industry is just doing its bit in fulfilling the need for vocational skills as of now.
Yeah, I think absolutely right, and especially in pandemic times, we have seen a lot of people being pushed into an online ecosystem. At NSDC, we were noticing that trend very actively, because NSDC operates in almost every district of the country.
Yeah.
We have a presence in the form of Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Kendras, which are PM's centers for skilling, which we have set up. And we have seen, suddenly when the physical, structures have gone through lockdowns, and the need has emerged to connect online. So one of the things we have done at NSDC is quickly look at 3 pillars to strengthen the ecosystem, especially during the pandemic. One is the content providers, getting the relevant content, online content. And second is your digital tools to ensure that the connectivity is there. And third is the industry partnership. We quickly turn around, and we, in fact, during the pandemic, in the from last March 2020 onwards, when we started off this engagements, in the pandemic times and during the pandemic times, we landed more than 40 partnerships, whether those are with the international MOOCs like edX, Coursera's, or a Khan Academy,
Yeah.
or whether they are with large organizations which have committed funds and support to skill people during the pandemic, like a Microsoft. When Satya Nadella announced the GSI Global Skilling Initiative, India was the first country, and NSDC was the first organization to tie up with them to take a target of skilling 1 lakh women, especially in digital skills area. And then we have also tied up them with certain state skill missions in further making this happen across several states, or an Amazon or a Salesforce, ServiceNow, organizations like these, and including startups. For example, Baiju came forward and said that we want to skill people, especially the teacher training programs, because teacher enablement is extremely important, more than even school, children, because children adopt technology fast. Teachers are, are a little hesitant in terms of usage of technology, and we need to ensure that they are enabled to further fill the gap completely. Then we brought in some organizations like Imparters to bring in technology tools to ensure that our connectivities, our engagements to reach out to these audiences virtually is enabled. So, I think the one word I would use in this entire pandemic in putting across this is the collaboration from industry. That could be startups, it could be large enterprises, it could be SMBs, it could be organizations which are deep into deep technology using AI interventions and tools which can connect, and the government, along with the academic institutions. So this combination of these three, are the right word for this is collaboration, has really helped us in connecting with people. So, and now moving on to the next, thing, next question to Saurabh. Saurabh joins us from a fairly young startup organization, is one of the founding members and also the chief operating officer. So Saurabh, where do you see, because you engage with colleges day in and day out,
right,
especially in the STEM space, and you guys also know that India has, the Indian statistics are very interesting. We have 1.65 million schools and more than 44,000 higher education institutions. If I look into schools, we have 4 times more schools than what China has. The school ecosystem. And then the college ecosystem is 44,000 colleges, out of which 16,000, roughly 17,000 are technical institutions. And out of that, if I look into engineering, there were maybe 6,000 plus 7,000, close to 7,000. Couple of them got shut down because of poor placement and, faculty challenges, infrastructures, and, admission issues. And we intake close to 12 lakh students every year in engineering space. And STEM is one of the very interesting spaces. A lot of students have wished to get into computer science education because of number of jobs which are available. So if I look into the existing right now, maybe that number could be around 5,000 engineering colleges or so. How do you see the system? If I have to place them in a pyramid structure, you'll have the IITs, IIITs, and other institutions which are like the top notch, where there is a decent amount of faculty interactions, infrastructure placements. Then you have the private engineering institutions, maybe an MET, Manav Rachna, LPU, Chandigarh University, SRM, VIT, which are far better in terms of adoption of technology, moving faster. And then the rest of it, majority of it falls at the bottom end of the spectrum, which is a little larger, could be around 3,000 institutions or so. So where do you, because you engage with them across all 3 spectrums and you have students on your platform, where do you see the challenges are in these structures? Curriculum issues, are there enough faculty, but they're not trained faculty, or the placements are poor because there is no relation between what they're teaching and what industry needs. How are you looking at particular scenario?
Right. Thanks a lot, Venkatesh, for that question. I would probably touch upon a few things, but taking a step back, where does the scaler actually come from? So one key element or one key story that I would like to maybe share with you guys is back in 2018. So we have been in the edtech space since 2015. We started off with a company called InterviewBit, right? And we were helping people learn, we were helping people prepare for tech interviews. Now, in 2018, Uber, which was one of our premier partner, agreed that, instead of going to campuses, why don't you guys help us hire? What we did was, we already had almost 1 million users on the platform. We opened it for every single user who was in a college. And we were able to close a lot of engineers who were from tier 2 or tier 3 colleges. That was pretty surprising for us. We definitely knew the potential exists, but we did not know how to differentiate in it, right? And that's where a lot of conversations started. We started talking to these people. We started talking to people from higher colleges. What we realized is that curriculum is not really the problem. The curriculum is roughly the same across all colleges, right? Because the curriculum is weighed in by the central government. And then again, there are a lot of the accreditations that each and every college gets. It's mainly about the guidance. It's mainly about the community, right? Now, when you look at an IIT or a IIIT or a NIT, NSIT, etc., they have a community where there are seniors, where there are alums, where there are a lot of these people who are guiding you on a day-to-day basis. Versus when you look at a college that is fairly unknown, where there is no guidance, or where there is very little guidance from somebody who can come in and say, I'm working at Amazon, or I'm working at Flipkart, or I'm working at Zoho, or I'm working at Swiggy, and this is what works, right? This is what the industry is looking for. That's where we see a lot of difference. The colleges education and the industry requirements have a gap, right? That gap cannot be filled by curriculum, no matter what happens, because the curriculum just cannot be updated at the frequency at which the industry is moving, right? And that's where a lot of programs come in, a lot of these mentorship or skill development programs come in, where we also see ourselves. A lot of what Mr. Rajendran was saying was resonating with me, because a lot of very, very similar stories, when we graduated from college, luckily we were able to get into some good jobs. Anshuman joined Facebook as one of the head engineers. Whereas when we look at our younger siblings, who unfortunately in their schooling did not do so well and got into a relatively unknown college, the gap is significant. The gap is so much that it's almost saddens us that that we got a different kind of education and they are getting a very different kind of education, even though we are learning roughly the same curriculum. So that's where we stepped in and we started solving that solution with Scalar. We started solving that problem with Scalar. What I see right now is that over the next few years, a lot of the companies, a lot of the organizations are going to work with skill development centers, or are going to build skill development centers internally, because they need to make sure that their talent is upskilling itself at pace with the industry. Right? That's where we become a complementing support system. We have been doing tie-ups with a lot of colleges. We currently have a lot of students from BMU Munjal. We have worked with LPU in the past. We have worked with a lot of colleges in the past. And we are also working with a lot of companies. So we are also working with organizations on upskilling their talent. Yeah, so it's a very interesting problem to solve, to be honest.
Great. I think good to hear your thoughts, and we'll again come back to you in terms of how are you fixing that problem, and also STEM and coding, and how important are that to the ecosystem of India. So again, going back to Rajendran, back to you, in an organization like Zoho, when you are having students go through the platform, right early, going through your futures, learning process, and then getting into the organizations. Once the individual gets inside the organization, and then you have a Zoho team, which is 10,000 plus members, how are you upskilling and reskilling these individuals? Because the industry needs are changing from time to time. Do you have a centralized learning management system or a portal? How are you looking at the needs of the individuals across various functions, and how are you doing that upskilling and reskilling within your ecosystem? Or do you use any external platforms to bring in some experts to upskill them? Can you throw some light on that side of the thing? I'm now looking at individuals who are already inside your organization, right, and who are contributing to various functions. How are you looking at upskilling and reskilling them?
Right. So first thing, let's get out of the way. Zoho runs on Zoho. We have 52 different products, from video conferencing to instant messaging to documents to presentations to customer handling. Every product, Zoho's own product, is what is being consumed. So Zoho Learn is one such product. It's an LMS tool where you can create courses, administer lessons, video lessons, documents, attach quizzes, do evaluation, and so on. We created it originally for any organization to handle their internal training needs. And that's what Zoho Schools itself is running on for the past couple of years. That's a very important thing. And moving forward, attention span being what it is, we have understood that the classic 45-minute period concept has to be thrown out the window. Also, you need to have a problem before you can be fed a solution. Otherwise, it's not going to stick. So we want to allow students or employees have that little slack period, that elbow room to do their own experiments, to do their own learning, which is not accounted for. The classic 20% Google story, where you're allowed to do, or there was this concept of FedEx days, where you will have to deliver a weekend, a Saturday and a Sunday is given to you. You work on something and you bring it out on Monday and demonstrate it. That's the idea, basic idea. So we allow the employees to indulge on a side project, to experiment. And when they hit an obstacle, some concept that they don't know, some particular skill that they need, and that is when the learning process actually starts. We don't really have tie-ups with any external organizations who will help us. We first thing that we do is create the environment for learning. Afterwards, the wild out internet is out there, and we can learn whatever we want with just diligent searching, researching, assimilating, experimenting, and getting things done. The other thing is every little bit of Zoho's own product is available for anybody to tinker with. So if I don't like something about Zoho Mail's interface, I can raise once as an issue internally. I can raise it once more. The third time, our CEO or somebody at a similar level will come around and say, fix the problem. Right? Because it's available out there. You can download it. You can set it up on an internal server. You can fix it, play around with it, break it. That's how you learn. You break it. And if things look so good, that becomes the standard interface and the original one is archived. There have been some really smart innovations done just like that. So primarily, that is the most important approach we adopt. Just-in-time learning, problem-based learning. You first create a problem that is larger than the little learning that I can give you. And after that, it's basically take two. So 2-minute learning is what we really, on an ongoing manner, that's what we do. One little bit I would like to add before we close is we have a Zoho school, 150 plus students every year, eager to learn and assimilate. So we allow faculty members to be picked from among the active engineers and designers and marketers in the company. We have a core group of 25 employees whose only job is to teach at Zoho schools. But it is an open call to the 10,000 plus employee force to spend their weekends, to spend half an hour a day, to come over to our classroom and demonstrate what they did that day. Or they were going to present at a conference 2 days from now. Come, you want a free audience to give you feedback? Come, do the presentation here. So here is a captive audience for you to experiment. They say that, don't they? The best way to learn something is to try teaching it to somebody who really doesn't know and who really doesn't care too much about asking all kinds of silly questions. Right? Explain like I am 5, they say. ELI 5. So that is a great opportunity every employee at Zoho has to indulge in a part-time teaching experience. We also set up VR buddies, virtual reality buddies. Every student at Zoho schools has a buddy in the company who will help the student understand the Zoho culture, understand the city they are living in, understand who is who in the company, the history of the company, the intangible, undocumented little nuances of the company. That again is very important learning, not just for the student, but for the employee also. So that's how we get that done.
I think, the more we are speaking to you, I think there's a lot of interesting insights about the organization. I somehow feel Zoho as the next Google of India, how it is getting built, the open culture, the community model, the mentoring process, the hiring methodologies. I think Zoho will do wonders in the coming years, and it could be a benchmark in terms of organizations to learn. And also some of the practices, what you've been talking about, are very exciting, very interesting. They are disruptive in nature. They're very different from the traditional organizations we have in India. And this would certainly set an example to not only to the Indian companies, to the companies outside. Because a lot of organizations, if you look into ITES today, the biggest problem they're facing currently in the pandemic time is not shortage of business. They're having good time with business outside, and they're growing their double digits guidances. But the problem they're having is attrition. Attrition is one of the major issue that's happening, right? So, when you're building an organization with internal strength of people coming from Zoho schools, not only gaining skills, but also forming that bond with Zoho for a lifetime, they become a kind of an alumni of you wherever they go to reflect back the core values. I think organizations have to really spend and not just explore the shortcuts to hire people, give them some bonus or dividends, or let's say shares and some hikes in salaries. These are very temporary things. But how are you building the foundational values and also the bringing them a belongingness within the company, and and connecting with community members within the organizations, mentors. Those are the aspects where most of the organizations are not able to look into fixing those solutions. And for them to retain talent is like giving a next check which is little higher than what industry can offer, and somebody else comes in, and if they offer something, then the individual leaves the organization. So moving on to Amitabh, you are leading a very large institution. ICICI has presence in almost every city, every town, and large ecosystem. So what are some of your best practices you have implemented, or you have seen in the in the financial ecosystem, especially from your own organization? If you can share some with us in terms of either talent hiring, talent skilling, talent retention, or motivational aspects of ensuring the talent is building onto the community, acting to contribute as mentors or coaches to the new talent which is joining. If you can share some, that would be very interesting from an upskill and a reskill perspective.
Absolutely. No, I think one of the things which I mentioned, the industry academia partnership, the ones which we run with Manipal and ITs and few more, NMIMS in Mumbai. I think that's when we did it. It was unheard of in the banking space at the size and the scale which we spoke about, right? So that's something which is unique, and that supply ensures that a lot of our skill demand is taken care of. When it comes to, after someone has joined the job, and after that, the learning, we spend a lot of time on building culture, because we believe that even culture of learning is something which we need to build. It doesn't come automatically, right? And like one of the co-panelists mentioned, that a lot of people look at education as a means to get a job. Once you get a job, you forget about learning and upgrading, and in a formal manner, right? The better ones will start learning on their own, and the way possibly, a lot of us learned, right, on our own and not through a formal classroom system. So we spend a lot of time on building that culture. So, for example, when we started to train and build skill around data and technology in the bank, and we wanted to morph ourselves from a traditional bank to a digital bank, and we started the journey a few years ago. The first thing we did was that we picked up the top 200 people and started orienting them on what is digital. And we got professors to come in from Harvard and London Business School and MIT. And, so every month we launched a program called 12 by 12. So there is a speaker every month coming, from a global university and talking about what is happening in the world. What's digital going to do? Because unless the mindset of those 200 people is changed, you can't drive any transformation journey. After that, skilling people lower down on a new technology became easier, because if someone comes and says, I want to automate, or I want to do a robotics process automation of the way we do things, it becomes easier, because the boss will say, yeah, I heard about it, I know that's the way to do, so go ahead and do it. So it takes care of a lot of internal resistance. We have structured our entire intervention into 2-3 areas. So one is cognitive, right? So a lot of skill which you need to build around self. We do some work, but we do a lot of work on building perspective. So when perspective is built through experiences. So when we get people to come from outside, we don't restrict ourselves to banking. So we get a lot of sports people to come and talk to us. We get a lot of rocket scientists to come and talk to us. We get a lot of doctors to come and talk to us, because they bring in a very different kind of an ecosystem. There is a very different kind of a knowledge base, and it because if you get people from the same industry, somewhere the ego also comes into play, saying, "Oh, I'm already so big. Who's going to teach me banking?" But when you get as Rahul Dravid coming and saying that how difficult it is to play in Sydney when there are hostile bowlers bowling at you, and the whole nation is watching you. And then you understand what it means to deal with the stress and the pressure and a performance, right? So that's one very interesting experiment we've been doing. We also use our CSR arm called ICICI Foundation for Skills to invest a lot in upgrading the community around us. So that's another important work, I think, which is happening through the organization. Right now, most of the upskilling work is related to building new skills. So let's a kind of training I'll go through. I will not go through any kind of program in HR because that's my job. If I want to survive, I need to upgrade myself on my own. But new products, new skills in digital analytics, design thinking, that's where we supply a lot of content through Coursera. We get professors from University of Toronto to come and talk to us. I mean, that's all these opportunities available because of the size we have. And we partner with plenty of organizations in this space. And actually, we believe, is that our LMS is nothing but a database. We have built everything on top of it because I couldn't find any LMS which fulfills such a dynamic need. So we said, okay, let's use our LMS and HRMS more like a database and build everything on top of it. So that you can talk to Coursera today, you can talk to Harappa Education day after, you can talk to somebody else day after. Just keep building an API and keep linking everything. So that's the method which we've been following. So it's a very, very open architecture. In a summary, is what we are following right now.
And one little thing for those who are listening, this amazing idea of 12 by 12, getting people from NASA, getting Rahul Dravid. Today, thanks to the internet, thanks to remote conferencing, I think COVID has blessed us with that. It has made us overcome that inertia. Once upon a time, we had to book flight tickets and hotel rooms and get them over for 2 days. And simply that prevented us from listening to a professor from MIT. Today, and I think forever from today, even after COVID goes away, this remote digital learning is going to be here. It's here to stay. It has changed the landscape once and for all. You don't need to be as large an organization like ICICI to implement what he just said. That's the beauty of it all.
Very true. I think also, we are actually saving time. We are saving the petrol, the travel, and giving back quality time to your own families. I think pandemic has given a different dimension to rearrange, reprioritize your life. I think that's a very important thing we have noticed. So, moving on to Saurabh, to you, you have some plans to experiment in this space, like a Zoho Learning, in terms of, connecting with the talent, going beyond certificates and marks and exams, and experimenting something which is more focused around skilling, because technology jobs are much in demand right now. There are a lot of jobs available. Unfortunately, the talent gaps are there. Hence, the organizations are suffering. We can see. I'm a personal believer in startup ecosystems, and I personally see that the next wave of hiring, of course, Infi, Wipro, TCS, HCL, Cognizant. I worked with some of these organizations in the past. They have led the journey for the last 20 years, and they are doing great work. But the next wave of jobs would actually be created by startups. That's my personal belief. By the next 5 years, 10 years, you have seen some of the listings like Zomato, which went well, and there are a bunch of listings which are going live by this December. And every day there's a new unicorn adding up. I think there are 22 or 21 unicorns now. So there's a lot of hiring that's going to happen in the startup ecosystem. And how about the startups hiring methodologies are? Because you engage with them, you talk to them. Are they giving very importance to degrees and certificates, and are they going more on skilling, especially in the technology side? And if you can also throw some light on the programs you have for the future to bridge the gap at a mass level, that would be something exciting from your, experience point of view.
Unfortunately, I only have 1 minute to wrap it all up. So I'll just maybe say, we have a lot of plans. Startups have started opening up, right? We have started seeing a lot of younger organizations to focus more on skills and less on degrees and credentials. It's a really, really good and a positive signal in the right direction. We have never been pro certificates. We even till now never talk about our certification. Every student who completes the program gets a certificate, but that is not something that we advertise or bank on, right? We want to keep building on top of that, build on top of pro learning, pro skilling atmosphere, and an entire environment where you learn a lot, right? Jobs are plenty. Every company is willing to interview people who can show that they have the skills. If your resume as of today has one technical project, people want to interview you. It's just that you need to have the skills that you can showcase, that you will be able to add value, which is what our primary focus area is. I'm certain that there might be a lot of other questions that people might still have, for which you guys can always reach out to me on Twitter, LinkedIn, etc., and I can always answer. That's it. I would like to close on that, Venkatesh.
Thank you. For in interest of time, because there's a lot of audience listening to us, we have some interesting poll questions. I would love the backend team to get that poll questions on, because this would help us understand, what are your priorities? How are you looking at? The first one is, will corporate learning programs become truly valued only when they grant degrees? You have an yes, no, and maybe options there. Audience, I really want audience to answer this. That will give us a kind of an expectation you have. And second is, have you enrolled into any online skilling or reskilling program in the last 1 year? And the third poll question is, do you think existing corporate learning internal platforms are good enough to meet the Industry 4.0 skill set? Or are you looking at external? For example, organizations like Harappa are doing fabulous stuff in terms of building the platform, getting the relevant content, improving the the certification rate. Is a very important thing. In fact, if you look into the global standards, they are still struggling. When I spoke to the Harappa CEO, they said that they have a great 70+% of conversion. So they're bringing a lot of relevance. So do you think individuals who are in corporates, you need external organizations to come and reskill you, upskill you? Are your corporate needs enough? So, I think there are some answers here. Will corporate learning programs become truly valued only when granting degrees? 27% say yes, and 50% say no. That's an interesting thing. And have you enrolled into any of the online upskilling or reskilling programs? 77% says yes. And trust me, had there not been pandemic, this percentage would be less than 30%. That's a push which we have seen. Do you think existing corporate learning internal platforms are good enough to meet your Industry 4.0 skills? I think there is 27% which say yes. And again, look at the insight here, 73% says no. And that's an opportunity. In fact, for many of us to understand what is the market trend. Of course, we discussed on all these 3 parameters in our forum. And with this, I think
one little thing about the last question. It is not about the learning internal platform. It's about the learning content.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the 27% which said yes, all of them belong to Zoho, I believe. Okay, but
I'm so sorry to come in, but we're really running a little late.
I know. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for giving us this platform. Thanks, Nikhil and team, for organizing, and Devi Prasad and you managing it from the back end and organizing this. Thanks, Rajendran, Saurabh, and Amitabh joining us today, sharing your thoughts. And we would be more than happy to respond to some of the Q&As post this session on a mail trail. Thank you so much. And thanks, audience. We could not take any live question, but we'll respond back to your questions. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.